Hello guys, this is Adam and this is the MacBook Air M4 and that is the Starlight color. So let's go ahead and unbox it. This is the base model which has 16GB of RAM, and then with the 16GB of RAM it has 256 storage, which I do not recommend going, but I got it for the sake of testing. So here we go. I'm trying to see if that's like a color I want to go with. So we're gonna push that right here. Let's go ahead and open it. Ooh, fancy, fancy. Almost feels silvery like. So this is right here, the MacBook Air M4. Before that, let's take a quick look at the accessories. So we get this cable right here, as you can see, and this cable, almost the color is white-ish. And then you get the packet that says designed by Apple as usual, and you get your 70-watt charger, which is right here. Now let's go ahead and open it. Ooh, fancy. Now I will say I am not as astonished with the color as I thought I would be. So right now we are here and we are a little bit with a different setup because we do have a monitor right here, and the reason for that is because I want to test a blender connected to the monitor and see how the performance for that would be. With that being said, I want to use a cable. So I have this cable from Silkland and it's an ultra certified cable and it's an HDMI ultra high speed. You can do 8K at 60 Hz or 4K at 120 Hz, and then the transfer speed for it is 48 gigabits since it's an ultra high speed HDMI cable. So let's go ahead actually and unbox it and then test it with our new Mac right here to see if that's gonna work. And as you can see right now, this is the cable. It's braided, and holy cow, that material is really nice. And it's very similar to the MagSafe cable for charging the Mac, because this one right here feels similar. I would say it's just a tiny bit thicker, and I would assume just because the cable is high quality. So let's go ahead and test it, and I'm just going to connect it to the monitor and then see if we can get a signal out of it. So as you can see right now, I am getting a signal on my monitor right here. Simply what I did, I used the cable. So I'm going to go ahead and open a Blender right now. So Blender is opening, and I'm gonna lower the screen for the laptop just like that, just so you can see it over here. And then we do have everything we want over here. And again, all of that is thanks to this cable right here, which is the Silkland cable, and I will leave a link for you in the description for you to check it out. It's a very high quality cable and I do recommend it. The first thing I want to do is I want to go to preferences, and the reason I am doing it this way, I want to see if you get an M4 Macbook Air and then you get home and then you connect it to a monitor like that, maybe through the Silkland cable, can you actually do your work without any issues? So here I am connected to the Apple M4 GPU with the 8 cores. I have not enabled the CPU just yet. And then here we're going to go ahead and then use GPU compute, and I am going to go ahead and do my first render. Now my first render will be the kernel render, so that will take more time than usual. However, the second run would be the run that we would go with in terms of actual numbers and then what we need to do. However, while this is doing, I want to talk about the setup real quick. Here we do have the MacBook connected to the power through USB-C. The M4 MacBook Air does not have, let's say, a high power mode or a low power mode. It does not have it. Neither the M5 MacBook Pro, the base model, have it as well. Only the M Max series of chips actually has that. That is something to keep in mind. This is the first time I am looking at the classroom scene here in a 4K display, and it looks beautiful. And by the way, through the Silk cable, I am actually able to run this 4K display with no issues. And also, if you can see right here, I am running the display at 120 frames. So basically, through the cable, through an adapter, I am able to run it through 120 frames. And that is actually the specification right here on the cable, which it says it can run 4K at 120 Hz, which is what you can see here with the monitor that I have connected to. So this is the first run. I'm gonna go ahead and run it again so we can see the actual time that we are getting, and then we can compare that. And I will see if it's connected to an external monitor, would the time be similar to the actual time that I usually get, for example, for the junk shop or the classroom scene. And if you remember, this is the results that we had before. So basically this is for the junk shop project, where the M1 Max took 23 seconds, and then a 3070 Ti 8GB from a Razer Blade 15, which is the mobile version, that took 18 seconds, and then a 5060 8GB version, desktop version, that took 12 seconds, aka 12.8. So let's round it up to 13. Apple M5 actually took 16 seconds. Then M4 took 20 seconds. And again, that took 20 seconds without it being connected to an external display. So let's see with an external display how long it took for the junk shop project. Well, guess what? It took 19.79. That's actually faster than you not having the display connected. So when you have the display connected, you're not gonna lose any performance, and maybe even the performance is just a little bit better, because right now we are connected to a 4K display, and that 4K display is running at 120 Hertz, aka 120 frames, and we can see this display in all of its beauty, and then through an M4 Macbook Air, and it's working without any issues. That's actually incredible. So I am going to go ahead and run it again. However, I want to make sure that we are on cycles, and then from cycles we are at GPU compute, and I'm gonna go ahead and then render, and we will see how long it would take. And then when we ended our screen recording, we still ended up with 19.59, which is still in the ballpark of 20 seconds. So when you are recording the screen, actually the performance is worse. That's why when I am doing those tests, I do not record the screen, because I want to give you a real performance where it's not affecting at all. But however, the signal that we are getting into the monitor is amazing. And again, if you need that cable, which is the cell client cable, I will leave a link for you in the description for you to check out. And this is the classroom scene. And with the classroom scene, basically, if I go to preferences, I have the Apple M4 GPU through the metal GPU acceleration. We're gonna go ahead and then test how the viewport is performing. So this is rendered, and I do have GPU enabled. It's actually fast, it's decent. So for example, right now this is rendering, and let's go to that Zap book, and then the Zap book is actually rendering a little bit quick, which is what you want, and then that is actually good and decent and all of that fun stuff. And then it rendered in a decent amount of time. Not necessarily from a scientific point of view, but just by scrolling and such, I feel as the M5 was actually faster with rendering the scene in terms of having the viewport being rendered, and through M5 it was actually faster. Now let's go ahead and do a material preview. So material preview, this is the first time, and then a material preview usually uses Eevee, and as you can see, it's taking some time for it to render, and then it's loading. Now I am not sure why it's loading, maybe because it's the first time, but so far the performance is excellent. But that first time, that initial run was a little bit weird. If we want to, for example, just move around, we can actually move around, no issues. We can go here, and then here we can have no issues, and then we can zoom in and we can zoom out with no issues at all. And the performance is actually really good, and it feels smoother because I am connected to a 120 Hertz monitor as well, rather than a 60-inch monitor, which is usually the one that is coming with the MacBook Air M4. And now let's say, for example, Command D, and right here, Command D, right here, Command D, right here, and I can copy and move without any issues in this, and the performance is actually excellent if we want to talk about material preview. Now let's go ahead to solid, and then solid, the performance is good as well. And then if we want to zoom out, we can zoom out, and then if I want to move, can do that. And even here, this jacket that I really like the topology of, it's doing just fine. And then if we can go back to the book, which is the Zap book right here, it's fine. Waveform is waveform, but if we go back to material preview aerial preview is doing just fine, and then I can zoom in, zoom out, and then move around without any issues, and I am really liking what I am seeing. I do like that I am looking at a bigger display and actually being able to work, especially if you are at home and then you want to be working on a bigger project or whatever that might be, then you will be good to go. And do not forget, if you want to have this silky smooth connection, I do recommend the Silk Client cable, and the link for it is in the description.